We are live. Fuck yeah. What's going on, everybody? So good to see everybody. Haven't been seeing a lot of people lately. All right, let's make this happen on Facebook. I'm going to go straight over here. You know how I do it. Yep. We're going to make this happen. Boom. Okay, cool. It should be all set up now. Like, share, comment, so I know that you're there. We're 30 seconds in. So far, I'm not seeing anybody. Oh, there we go. Dude, right away. So good to see you, Brian Manel. Okay. This is going to sound funny. I am good, but I'm also sick. My little news right now is that I am COVID positive. So I am sick. I'm under the weather. I'm just normal sick, though. Like, people talk about it like it's a fucking death sentence. My whole family has it. We're all quarantined in the house. We're okay. Everybody's just normal sick. You know what I mean? But we're good. We're gonna have a really good show. Basically, I have the sniffles. I'm coughing now and then, so you might see me mute myself and whatnot. But luckily, we have a fucking funny guest who can talk, who can distract you from my sickness, and we should be all good. I'm so excited because every time I sit down to hang out with Christie Shinn of Demon Bitch fame, we curse and we have fun and we laugh and it's fucking great. So I think you guys are just going to have a fantastic fucking night with this show. Just so much fun. Hope you all get better sooner than later. Kick that tiny organism. I thought you said orgasm for a second. I got to kick that orgasm in the buttocks. Get better. Oh, thank you, man. Good. Yeah, I think we're going to be fine, too. I'm honestly not worried. I mean, really just took the test so we knew what was going on and what we were dealing with, but it's just a regular cold. And the funny thing is I haven't had a cold in like 2 years because I've been wearing my mask and all that kind of shit. So, so yeah, it was bound to happen eventually, and yeah, everybody's good. We're handling it. Thank you, Sam. I appreciate you, buddy. But dude, we're getting a great crowd here. Even sick, you're sexy. What's up, Wendy?
When you move around because of the setup you have there, your mic is squeaking.
Oh, really? Drop my shirt just a little bit. Is that better? Now I move. Can you hear it? Scraping? Oh, you are behind, yeah. Okay. Can you guys hear it now? So it's funny. I have this pullover, and this is like all I've been wearing if I have to go out or whatever, or if I'm on something like this. So literally, like if I pull it off, naked. It just got sexier. Fuck yeah, look him. Fuck yeah. All right, you know what? The crowd is pumped up. We're having fun despite the little bit of sickness. Why don't we get this joint fucking going and have a blast? Thank you guys. I appreciate you. You guys are already making me feel better. Let's fucking do it.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool. Then I'm going to keep saying fuck. Because I care.
Hey, guys.
How's it going, Christy?
It's going quite well. I'm sitting at home, my little void. Let me show you.
He's so cute.
Ange is there, and I've just been having a very productive day on a lot of levels. Been running for office. No, I'm not president or anything as of yet. Hey, Trish, how's it going? Oh, damn, my cat stumbled. And I actually finished writing Sepulchre Volume 2. Very pleased that so I started sketching out the pages for that, thumbnailing the pages. I'm up to 10 pages. I can't believe it right now. So I'm like chugging away like a monster at this moment, where I've had a few years of fucking nothing. Hey, Derek. Hey, guys. He's going to keep forgetting he's not using his headphones, so get used to the crackling noise.
He's such a keeper. My wife knows me way too fucking well. Thank you, baby.
Yeah.
I'm doing all right, buddy. We're surviving. Now pretend like he's asking you. How are you doing, Christy?
I'm doing good. I'm healthy, although it's like for the fucking like sinus shit. Hello, hey Alf, how's it going, man? Appreciate it. I'm gonna
This
go
is
and
great.
hold my key.
Pussy always getting between us.
Yeah.
That's why I love having you on this show, Christy. Because as soon as we start, we're cursing. We know what we can and can't say. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
oh, going on.
I don't know if you're gonna get
hey!
Canada Dry.
Oh, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Much love.
Hmm.
And hey, what's up, Kev? Thank you, my man. John, holy shit, we got a fucking crowd.
Wow.
All right.
Damn.
Right? We have so many people going on. Oh, he was talking to Chris. Oh, that's fair. So what the fuck sign is this then? Holy shit.
This Canadian is dry as hell. Like, well, there's Canadian whiskey, and then some of it's like fucking rock gut and stuff. Found this from random scrolling. There you go.
You know what? Good luck, buddy. I hope you have a good time. Feel free to ask questions. And you know what? That's perfect. Derek, you don't know Christy. Christy, why don't you tell Derek and everybody else a little bit about you?
Actually, I do know Derek in real life, which is hilarious. But
that's great.
Yeah, we're actually local. Is there anything we can't say with Christy? She's so easygoing. No, I mean, I'm actually, I don't get really pissed about anything anymore. So it's like, whatever. And
Just
if I
don't
don't want to
come
talk
at her.
about it, I won't talk about it. And that's very few shit that I actually want to talk about, you know? But yeah, I mean, I'm a comic book artist. And apparently I'm a writer too. So there we go. I mean, I've helped write a couple of stories so far that'll be published in Real Deal in Fantagraphics with my buddy Lawrence. I've finished writing the graphic novel to Sepulchre Volume 2. If you guys have read Volume 1, please pick it up. I got them on the links on my link tree for the shop. It's like the art prints and books. But yeah, you'll get a signed copy as well. And thanks, Kevin. I have that. So I wrote that. And that might not seem like a lot, but then I started thumbnailing like 10 pages. And then tomorrow I get to release Demon Bitch because every Wicked Wednesday I'll do fucking Demon Bitch and stuff like that. So
sweet. You know what? That bids the question. When are you going to be doing a Kickstarter for Sepulchre?
I will be. Okay, so I'll be planning to do 2. So in March, I'll be doing one for Demon Bitch. And the one it's called Triggered. That's the new graphic novel because fuck it. Everybody went nuts in the last 2 years. I did I did 2 Kickstarters, 2020, and then 2021 I took a break because I was burned out. And then 2022, March I'm gonna do the one Kickstarter for Demon Bitch. I'm gonna have I think it's about 134, 135 final page count to be determined, but it's about 130 some odd pages of bullshit. And it's going to be a graphic novel. And the thought of it is actually I'm going to do it as a hardcover too. So some of it will be available in hardcover once we pass a stretch goal. We'll be releasing pins with 2 different expressions, glow in the dark, charms, and things like that. So we'll be doing that. And on top of that, if we see was Chuck's Autobot.
That's good.
So yeah, and so what I did was that when I did that, let's see, Horror Studios. Oh yeah, you also wanted to do my link tree because sometimes people get lost on my website. So Trish, if you want to put up the link tree, thank you though, I appreciate it. But with Demon Bitch right now, we're tentatively going to do the first volume of I think it's called this Dirty Dumpster Fire. And that's what the tentative name of the game is going to be. And it's a Demon Bitch game. And essentially she gets up and you get to be like Demon Bitch for a day, which is basically endlessly looking for attention in any way, shape, or form, no matter what kind of thing you'll do.
That sounds like my Tuesday evening. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like, hey, David, how's it going? Get that bobblehead. Yeah. By the way, I got a 3D printer. One of my friends gave it to me. They said, hey, anybody want a 3D printer? I'm like, where do you live? San Diego? A few hours down? Sure, fuck it. It's free, right?
I'll do the drive,
I went down, we hung out. I got the 3D printer. It's a monster. And it's so funny because like one of my friends, as I was carrying it up the stairs, and he says like, why were you breathing so hard? And he came over with his girlfriend too. I'm friends with both of them. And he's like, dude, that's why. 'Cause It's like the printable end is like 7.9 by 7.9 by 7.9, but it's huge.
Sorry, I almost sneezed.
No, it's fine. It's just huge. And it's like, I was like, and I work out like every other day. So it's not like I'm out of shape or I go out for a walk, but goddamn, that thing's bulky.
Because Wendy says that you look and sound healthy, so.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
That's
I mean,
good.
I get runny noses and shit, but I've tested myself. Do not have COVID. So it's like, I've never had it this whole time. So I don't know if I got something that was sort of COVID adjacent and I've been immune. Don't know.
Jason.
Yeah, I don't know, really. Like, it's weird because it's like people that I know, and again, I'm not trying to get into anything controversial, but I happen to be allergic to the last flu shot, and I've been noticing correlation. Like, some of my friends have, not all, but some of them have had adverse reactions, and the ones that tended to do had bad reactions to the flu shots. I'm like, oh, I'm glad I didn't do that, and I waited, So no comment on if you are or aren't. It's just, I just somehow, for some strange reason of the luck, I don't know what it is, never got it. So I'm just like, cool. And I guess,
good,
yeah. And some people are like, kind of like, how come you're so calm? I said, well, I had a pancreatic tumor before the pandemic. So it's like, yeah, I'm around death, whatever.
You already faced down death once. At this point, you guys are old friends.
Yeah, it's like, fuck you. It's like, fuck you. Like, you're coming at me with this shit. Bullshit,
Come at me with something better than the sniffles.
Yeah. Either way, hope you continue to make it through COVID free. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm grateful about that. It's been pretty good. So it's like, yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know. I just kind of keep to myself. I'm actually not isolated. But I go out, I exercise, I breathe regular air, and then I take a lot of supplements and stuff to kind of build up my body and immune system. And it's worked for me for some reason. So
I actually found the nicest thing, feeling sick, especially nasal and whatnot, is driving with the windows down. Oh, just that fresh air in your face, blasting. It felt so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's like, for me, I've been sick before. It's funny, you said you haven't had the flu in 2 years. For me, I got sick like almost with a strep throat, and then I got sick with kind of a flu, and I tested both twice. It's like no COVID, so I'm like,
wow, that's funny.
Yeah, I was just all fucked, and it was just like, but it was weird because I was exhausted as shit. So I was like, like to some of my friends, I was like, sorry, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just fucking exhausted. I've been sleeping it off, but other than that, I've been good.
Good. Well, and you've been productive too.
Yeah. Doing Demon Bitch. I'm running for office for an organization. I'm not going to get into it right now because it has not been finished. So I don't want to say. Just finished Sepulchre, this book. It's like, I still can't get over how I finished. Didn't I say yesterday that I finished it?
Yeah, we did talk. Yeah, I believe you did.
Yeah, so I finished it yesterday, and I still can't get over it, and it's kind of weirding me out because like this was a monkey on my back for years, and people ask like, "Oh, when are you gonna finish it?" I'm like, I don't know. I'm working on it. But I think the biggest struggle is that I primarily come as an artist, right? And again, it's not shitting on writers and all that, but when I did the first Sepulchre, I just storyboarded that fucker all the way through. And I was like, okay, great, right? And then now it's like I had to write this thing and I didn't know how to write it. So I kind of saw like people did outlines, people did full on scripts. So I just kind of wrote what was comfortable for me. So it's a combination, not really script, but sort of novella type overall thing. And now it's came out and it's beautiful. I mean, I'm not trying to say that to toot my own horn, but when you finish something and you're like, this is just right. This is good. Yeah. And you're really happy about it. And that's where I'm at right now. So it's like, but it was just weird kind of doing it in a different way that I would have. Like I would have storyboarded and I was stuck on that. And then I had to write it. And then I was kind of stuck on that too. And what I found what was interesting on writing is that I would write chunks of it, but I would write it in ways like I write a section. And sometimes I'd write it with dialogue if it was popping in my head. And then I'd write like a section. And there is like this thing that I actually did yesterday. It was crazy. I wrote the ending part to where I wanted it to end at that level. And then I started meeting at the bridge of incidents, I guess that's what they call it, right in the middle. And I got it. And I sat back and I'm like,
That's so cool.
this is good. This is good. And
Well,
again,
Well, why don't you tell us about Sepulcher? Like, tell us a story about it. Tell us, what is the scope of what it's going to be? Is it going to end on volume 2, or is it going to keep going? What is it?
well, it's a story about a woman who is, and it's kind of a homage in some ways, like the names, to some of the 80s cartoons that I liked and some of the movies. So it's a play on some of the names, but it's not actual, like Lady J Hawk is like the what is it, the heroine, right? And and it's kind of like her name, Lady Hawk. I like that movie. And
Okay.
there is Lady J, which was one of my favorite characters on GI Joe. I actually really liked Lady J. In fact, I would totally cosplay her as if I could. I kind of have the same hair,
You
but
could totally do it.
yeah. And so there's Lady J, and what was it is that she is essentially a woman of highborn means, and she's basically, her husband tries to kill her to marry another woman, and he tries to do it in the most gruesome, fucked up way possible, and she ends up losing her voice permanently. She never talks. Like, you never, even in flashbacks, she never says anything. And what was kind of the challenge is that some people were like, oh, strong women, they always have a voice. And it's like, I'm a little bastard, so I draw a very strong woman, but she has no voice. And the challenge is that how does she communicate with not saying anything? It's not that she's not illiterate or she can't write. I think writing, if you know how to write, that's literate still, right? I know literate is reading, but I'm trying to.
Well, read and write. I mean.
Yeah, okay. So she can write, but it's like, I just didn't want that. That was like too much of an easy way out. Like, for me, and also putting myself in the character's shoes, it's like, how would she feel if she couldn't even say like yes or no, or even say how she felt, because she's like, she can't talk, like her throat has been cut. So it's like she has, and also the point is that if you see in the thing, she's always constantly wearing a scarf, because like she has to actually have like an artificial breathing tube in her throat so she can breathe, but her vocal cords have been destroyed. So she has a scarf wrapped around her neck so nobody sees it. And she just has to communicate in different ways. As I said, she can read and write, but I didn't want to go to that in the story as much, because I felt that, for me, I thought that was kind of a cop-out, and also would be kind of boring, and I don't know if it would work. Strength being thrown through action and decision making is pretty strong in itself. Really like that voiceless angle. Yeah, it's kind of like what kind of got me was like GI Joe. How I'm trying to remember who one of the Joes used to fuck with GI Joe with Snake Eyes a lot, but they could communicate, which was weird. And when I watched that as a kid, Snake Eyes would just look at him like, and he's all masked up, like you have no idea what he's doing. But yeah, like they would fuck with Snake Eyes and just look at them, but you could kind of tell like what he was trying to say. So,
and I like that, because Snake Eyes was one of my favorites.
Yeah, Snake Eyes is fucking badass. Like, they did like a Transformers GI Joe crossover, and he fucking just like Cobra Commanders on Starscream, which is ironic because it was played by the same voice actor for a time. And he basically smashes like fucking Starscream's optics and drops a grenade, and this is a later fucker and leaves. Like, it's great. But yeah, I mean, but the thing is that I mean, now that I think of it, I can't believe I kind of did it that angle. But the thing is like her eyes, her expression and gestures are the ones that convey the emotion. And I was able to do that really well according to the first book. And it wasn't just me touting my own horn. I mean, I've had other people read it, and they've done really good reviews on the first book. So actually, that was kind of why I sort of had writer's block on the second one, because I was like, I wanted to be as good as the first one, but I didn't want to be shit. But I mean, I'll put a link for your. I mean, I'm not going to give the link to the whole world, but Chuck, if you want to see the link to it and preview it and take a look. But I had actually had Kristen Gorlitz. Actually, she does this. She's a writer, and I think she does write for some TV shows and like TV stations and stuff, or TV shows. I'm terrible sometimes identifying certain writers in TV. But she's written her own, and now she's changed it, but it's called The Empties, and it's about people becoming zombies after they eat a certain type of gummy bear. It's really weird. And then she talks about, in this story, it's like this husband and wife, their marriage is falling apart, and he finds out his wife's cheating on him, but then she's turning into a zombie. So it's like this whole fucking thing. But it was written really well. And so I asked her, okay, I'm writing Sepulcher 2. I'm not a writer. I half expected her to shred this fucking thing. Like for me, I just say, okay, I'll do it. I think it's pretty good. Let's see what a person who has backgrounds in it can give me pointers, like whatever. And so I gave it to her, and she like just asked a couple of questions, like, "This is really good. I like how it's going." I'm like,
yeah, I really. Excuse me. I really have wanted to read that one. I love the character look, and now that you've explained it, really excited. So is the first one on Amazon or
the first
on your
one
website?
is on Amazon, and I think I have a few copies. So if people order it directly through my store, I sign the books. Because if it's Amazon, it's print to direct. Yeah, and it's like $16, and I'll sign it. But yeah, so Sepulchre 2, I'm drawing the second one. So it'll be interesting how the art just kind of jumps, because it's about 5 years since I did the last one. And I was thinking of redoing it, but I just said, you know what, let me keep it at this one. And then let me do it this one and see how it works out. But it adds in more of the characters. Like it's about, the husband and the new wife and everything. And it's like a fucked up family with very fucked up dynamics. Yeah, it's really crazy. And then it brings in like how these two people are intertwined, like Jay and Buzz from the first book, and how her husband and, Buzz's past kind of go and intermingle. And it was kind of weird, like how it's kismet or serendipity that the two meet each other. And it's kind of interesting. And it kind of ends sort of dramatically. And no, it's not the end of the series. It is the end of the book as itself.
Okay.
But it's pretty spectacular. It's like, it's kind of bloody, and it's kind of very, 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 like I'm all for like very cold-blooded revenge movies sometimes. Like I've not watched like the Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, but I've watched like The Man from Nowhere with Won Bin, some Korean movies. Some Korean action movies are fucking cold, like when it comes to like revenge and shit like that. So, and I've watched Old Boy. Now, Old Boy, I've had to take a shower after each one, so it's not a bad movie. Okay, guys, it's not a bad movie, but it's a fucked up movie. So it's like, you just like, holy shit. And it's part of the Vengeance series, because there's Old Boy, there's I need to see that. My favorite revenge movie is Old Boy. Yeah, there's Sympathy for Lady Vengeance, there's Old Boy, and there's a third one, and I'm trying to remember what was the third one, but it stars kind of the same actors.
I haven't watched a lot of Korean movies, though I'm obviously interested. But even like Squid Games, which was huge, they had that really great revenge moment towards the end where the woman was really pissed off at the kind of criminal boss who'd been pushing everyone around. She got so angry that she basically jumped him, hugged him, and then pushed him off the bridge, and they both died together. And so that was kind of a neat little, Yeah,
it's just like the cutting of the nose to spite the face. But with this one, it's like there's this one part where she cuts a carriage in half, Jay, because you actually find out she's a really good swordswoman, like, and she just cuts like the carriage in half, like in the top, and just tries to kill off everybody inside. So it's pretty crazy. So Sympathy for Mr. Okay. The Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, and then there's Lady Vengeance, and then there's Old Boy. It's like a trilogy. So it's the Vengeance series. I think that's what it's called.
And all those characters, like, all those stories kind of intermingle? Or
Well, I think it's more of the actors. The actors are kind of similarly used. Like the guy who plays the main guy, Odesu, I think, in Old Boy. He plays the villain in Lady Vengeance. I don't know what he does for Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance. I'm not sure about that. But it's not sold as a trilogy, but it really is kind of a trilogy. But I think they're all kind of related because of the actors that play them.
Like a thematic sort of trilogy, wherein they all have similar themes and use a lot of the same actors and shit.
Yeah. It's like Scorsese using the same actors over and over again. Like he'll use, for a while he used De Niro, and I think he's used Pacino. He's used those same cluster of actors because he's an auteur and he has like a certain way of doing it. Not always, but that's the actors he's usually used. Even he used Joe Pesci in a number of his shit also too. So auteurs are kind of like that. So
even like this one, Tim Burton.
Yeah. Tim Burton will use Johnny Depp a lot, has used Johnny Depp a lot. He's used Helena Bonham Carter a lot. Yeah. He's used like certain people a lot depending on the movies that he's done. So, yeah, I mean, it's not all the time, but it's a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
they'll
cool.
usually have their favorite actors they use. Yeah, so it's not all the time, but it's certainly it's certainly a certain amount. So, I mean, for this one, it's about vengeance. It's about whole like betrayal. But the point of Sepulchre, and it has been kind of my own personal journey, that how trauma ensconces you. What I have noticed is that sometimes trauma kind of messes with your self-concept, and people go like, what do you mean? Like, I kind of get meta, because it's like I kind of wonder why things happen and how they happen. And sometimes people go on the classic God, blaming God or whatever. And again, I'm not here to make anything religious or anything. It's just kind of like, okay, how does the universe work in my crazy little head? So one of the things that I have discovered is that, sometimes there's this idea of self-concept that's used in a lot of things, like with people who do law of attraction or law of assumption or certain types of motivational stuff. And now people go like, oh, we're going to do that stuff. I said, well, it interests me because there's a lot of people that use it. There's a lot of things that you can employ that are actually effective. And people can say, well, that's manipulation. It's not really, it's interesting, because one of the things that I'm explaining is self-concept, and the concept of everybody is you pushed out. Now, again, by that blanket term, you're thinking, oh, everybody's just like me. No, that's not what it is. It's like what we do is we grow through life. We develop a story in our heads of who we are, what we receive, what we do, how we perceive things, how we send things out, how we receive them, or all this other shit. So really everyone is you pushed out is really your story. So if you come from a background where you're constantly abused, let's say, for example, you're coming from a background they're constantly abused, constantly belittled, constantly being told you're not good enough, you're going to have a life that radiates that unless you break that pain body. That's what they like to say in metaphysics. Like, it's just like this amount of pain or remembrance of trauma that keeps calling the incidents back to you. This is also on a surface level why people that are victims of abuse become abusers, or they bring the abuse, they go through the endless cycle of abuse, because it fulfills them on a certain level. Now, that does not mean I advocate abuse by any means, but it's just what you are so used to, your psyche and how your story is what you're so used to. Even though you hate it consciously, it brings it in to try to keep your mind normal, which is odd. But, I'm not saying abuse is normal, but I'm just saying if you're coming from that perspective, this is why you continuously do a cycle. That's why people, they go like, how come kids in the foster system always constantly fuck up a lot of the time, and they cause chaos when they could? And it's like, because their psyche is still stuck to that old story a lot of the time. So that's why counseling is good. Therapy is good. That helps break it. But I decided to kind of go a step further. So explaining all that, that's why I think of Sepulchre, because like when you think of it, person has been through a lot of trauma, like getting your throat slashed, whatever. And then you kind of wonder, okay, how come people can go on and live happier lives despite that, and some people despite that can't, and it's not because they're so traumatized that they can't live through it. I mean, some of the people, including me, have been through stuff, and it's like we consciously know we don't like it. We've consciously changed our patterns. We've consciously done this, but there's something that keeps calling it back. And Sepulchre is like a tomb. So it puts you in this tomb of repeating pattern. So that's why I was thinking of Sepulchre. It's like she's hell-bent on revenge. She wants to kill the person who betrayed her. That's very, very realistic. That's very, very, sympathetic in a way, because something terrible happened to her. So but the thing is that you see her process as she goes through it. It's not that she's like, I didn't want to leave in the story because it's different people in trauma. It's not like people that are like constantly like this, or they're constantly aggravated. It's not always that in trauma. It's like, you seem to get better, but then there's other things that switch you into that other mode. So it's kind of like being more conscious of that. And I know that's kind of like a weird thing, but it's like I'll share you the story, Chuck, you'll kind of see what I mean. But it's like this sort of soul progression. It's like when they're saying like, abuse of a person or this, it's not a traditional abuse of this and that, the other thing. I mean, I've been through some of that shit myself. It starts off simple enough where it seems kind of innocuous. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying every innocuous thing is abuse, by the way. When you actually get past it, you heal from it and you get wisdom from it, you kind of understand like where it is, these nuances. So you go and do that. And it's like, but I also have people respond in ways that aren't, stereotypical. Like there's one where Buzz encounters, his friend's wife, and she's been beaten by his friend, his longtime friend. And he always knew there was something kind of off about him for a while. And he's really good friends with him, but he's actually fallen in love with her. But I didn't want to do this traditional, like, well, I'm just writing it off because he's my friend. It's just in this situation, he's trying to kind of gauge the situation. Like, he's like, okay, you know, because like the friend lies and says, oh yeah, her horse got spooked and threw her. And when he sees her, she's delirious with pain and she's talking about totally something else. So he's like, I know she's not fucking lying about that. So he kind of gently advises his friend, like, take it easy on your wife, kind of thing. But, you know, how his friend reacts, he's beginning to know more and more. He's not a good person. You know, he's definitely changed and not for the better. So I didn't want to put this typical guy is a dumbass thing and he stands by his bro. It's like, no, sometimes people are very complex, but they want to see if a situation can be solved in a more peaceable means rather than outright getting into another person's face. And also I'd had to take into account that the character at the time, he was a younger person. So he didn't have the wisdom that he has now as a result of it.
Okay, cool. So that brings something up, because it sounds like it's very high violence, right?
It's pretty high violent. I mean, I don't show people too much. It's kind of funny. I mean, well, you'll probably have to read the written version of the thing, but there's some parts of it that are pretty fucking violent. But I wouldn't say it's violence nonstop. You know, it's just basically stuff that kind of happens, and you're like, because the thing is that with abuse, with things, the thing is that when they tell people in abusive situations, like, oh, you just leave, but it's hard for them to, is that their brain is still trying to reconcile, how could this person be loving and then turn around and just hit me or say horrible things to me?
Yeah.
You know, it's sort of like, there's no build up to that. It's just bam, you know, it's just out of nowhere, like Jekyll and Hyde. It's literally that, and your brain is trying to reconcile that.
So you and I both share the love of the word fuck and swearing and all that kind of stuff. Did you did you come at the language in a way where you're just like, no, I need to be able to say whatever I wanted? Or did you try to keep it a little more PG? Like,
you know, I mean, considering it's violent, I mean, I'm pretty sure I kind of don't have too much restrictions on language. Right. For some of it, I did not write the word fuck in a lot of the dialogue that I wrote down. It doesn't mean it won't pop up later. Disgusting word, Eric.
You're such a fucking liar, Eric. It's his favorite word, too.
I figured that. It's a disgusting word. Shameful. But yeah, going back. I mean, so far I've had Buzz say the word shit. But, you know, I mean, it's like it's not like Eddie Murphy from Beverly Hills Cop. You know, it's like, as far as I know, it's not like Beverly Hills Cop. It's not quite like that. But, I mean, it's violent. I mean, some parts of it are violent. Some of it is kind of very strange English. I don't know. It just kind of came out that way. But it's just basically, it's going to be what it's going to be. I mean, I think essentially, like, heads are getting chopped off and people getting stabbed and shot in the fucking head. So, I mean, I think we got our violence level there, right?
Right.
So, you know, it's just is what it is. I mean, as I said, I'm thumbnailing it right now. It might, I mean, there's strong incidences of possible assault. Like, there's some basic incidences of assault, but it's not like nonstop throughout the whole book. It's not like Walking Dead where they have all this crazy shit going on or something.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, good. I mean, I think that's important too, where we have those moments to breathe. Just be like, okay, crazy shit happened. I mean, I think when you're talking about the cycle of abuse, part of that cycle is those moments of quiet, where it's like, okay, now nice. What do I do?
Yeah, it's nice, or like this, and then when is it going to hit me again? You know, and you know, there's other things, like you have certain things where you just want to go burn it all down. I mean, there's this one where Jay burns down a house. She's had it, you know. And, you know, and there's another time where he talks to her and he's upset and he's angry at her. He's not abusive to her, Buzz, but he starts yelling at her because he's frustrated as hell at, like, why the fuck are you doing half the shit? And she doesn't do crazy self-destructive shit. She just does it. She has her own logics of doing it. But there are times, like, where she just wants to say something, but she doesn't, because she's just that angry.
Yeah.
You know, or that, like, she's that frustrated because she can't voice it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's not like she can't really, she can't talk, she can't vocalize it. And I think also, like with people that have been abused, it's hard for them to vocalize it, because part of them is like, how could you allow a person to do this? Because unfortunately you do get that shaming, like, oh, you were dumb for letting that person treat you like that. But at the same time, it's sort of like, I can't even begin to describe like what the fuck happened in my brain. Like I can tell you what happened to me, but I can't tell you how much it affected me. Yeah. Do you prepare for writing those, or do you put most, it's from my perspective and from my experiences. But I've had time to heal and be done with those. And when you kind of sit down and you really look at how that happens, I think you can break it down and make it a better story, which is interesting. Sometimes with some books that address the subject, I think they're kind of cartoonishly bad. And I don't think they mean to be, but it's just like, oh, this person's just a jerk, they did this. And it's like, no, you have to understand that it's a very manipulative form of a very manipulative form of communication, like whether it be verbal, physical, or all of the above, or mental. It's like, it goes deep. It's supposed to go under your skin and mess with you. That's the point of it. It's where you don't.
And we also, I mean, of course, we have our personal, the abuse that has happened in our lives, but also you see the abuse that has happened to the people around you. And so you get to, I mean, that's almost, talking with girlfriends and family members and all that kind of stuff. That stuff, just being a human, ends up being a part of that research, even though that wasn't your primary reason. It ends up being a part of that.
Well, I mean, I think, you have to give a human experience. And unfortunately, that's one of the experiences that you have to give. For me, there's like the story Cross, like the comic book Cross. That's a fucked up one. That's like relentless shit. If anybody doesn't know what Cross is, it's basically a disease where you actually get a cross on like your eye, like that. Like it's like that. And it just makes you into the most depraved motherfucker on the planet. It's like probably akin to somebody being a meth addict, because I've had friends that were meth addicts. I wasn't friends with them at the time, but when they told me about their time when they were addicted, it made them the worst person ever. Like meth just does not make you into a good person at all. It's not like, oh, it's a different reaction with everybody. It makes you into a horrible, horrible that. Don't miss out on the abuse we do ourselves, which is so bad. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. We're taught to not be good to ourselves, or we're taught to kind of live in a pain body and not really heal from it. And I'm not trying to say that therapy isn't working. I think it's great. It helps you unfuck yourself. But when you want to go deeper, you have to acknowledge how the psychological can manifest in the physical a lot of the time. At least been my experience. It's been very incredibly weird how that happens. So, that's why I get into those school of thoughts with those things, because while I'm not saying that that's indicative of abuse, but abuse tends to help manifest those horrible things in a very ugly way. It can use principles like that. It's not that those principles are abusive, like sex can be used as a weapon. We know this. Sex in itself is not a weapon, but sex can be used as a weapon. So anything can be used as a weapon, which is unfortunate. That's the dark side of human side. So it's like whereas it's sort of also sepulcher is like a person trying to make sense of what has happened to them and perhaps get rid of that. Part of the human experience is pain as well. While a relatable experience, we can also manifest abusive behaviors as well. People are sure complex, and it stinks that some stories would not explore things like that. Those themes. Yeah, I mean, sorry, I'm like not being able to read well today. Yeah, I mean, the thing is that you have to acknowledge that exists. And to write a good story, you have to write it in a feasible and realistic manner. And you can't just be like, oh, wife beater guy, he just hits his wife. Ah. There are guys like that, and there are women like that do that to their husbands and boyfriends, but it's not as simple as that. It gets deeper. When doing your own comic, what ink pens to use? I think the subject matter got a little heavy, which is okay. I understand. I actually use Clip Studio Paint. That's a good one. That actually has different pens. I like to use Tastic pen. I don't know if you can find it anymore, or you can use different pens that you can download for free off of the Clip Studio Paint website. And that's good because you can save it on the cloud for them too.
That's really cool. Yeah, because
Yeah.
you do most of your work digitally, right?
Yeah, it's easier to edit. It's easier to edit. It's easier to draw, things like that.
Do you
Loving
find
the
that?
subject matter and discussion.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, okay, sorry. Loving the subject matter and discussion. I'm kind of exploring those themes as well as my main story. So thank you for talking about it. I mean, it's funny because people love having me on their show because I will talk about the most uncomfortable shit that people. I'm not cringy about it. That's the weird part about it. It's just like they say, "Oh, let's talk about sexual deviancy. What do you think about that?" And it's like, well, sexual deviancy, and we'll go on this whole thing about it. But I've been with Ted Davies and we've talked about like really meta shit, like Abraham Hicks and stuff. And again, I know that sounds zany and woo-wooey, but it's kind of weird. Like you have people that follow that, and when you actually listen to some of the subject matter that is shown by this, like some people like go and shit on some coaches and all. It's like I find life coaches very, very, very interesting because on a way, some of them are very good, some of them are very bad. But it's funny how people feel like they need to vilify these people, but at the same time, these people are kind of worshipped and held up to a certain standard. I mean, there are good ones and there's effective ones and there's ones with things that I don't think really work and it's okay, it doesn't work for me. But it's interesting how a person can coach the mind to do something.
Yeah. I remember meeting, having a friend who was like, you know what? I think I'm going to be a life coach. And I was like, okay, why? And that's kind of the editor in me. I'm always asking the question, why? And they were like, well, because I feel like I would be able to be helpful, kind of showing people their path. I'm like, but you haven't found your path. Like, you haven't done anything with your life. Why do you think that you should be telling other people how to find their path? And they're like, well, maybe I'm just better at helping others. And I'm like, maybe? I don't know. I'm just asking the whys.
Right? And so you sound more passionate about the subject than zany to me. Yeah, I mean, I think people will follow anything as long as it makes sense to them. Your interviews are so out of the norm, which makes them so amazing. Great nightmare material. Thank you. I'm like, and it's funny because like I draw another comic called, and I draw and write. I mean, most of you guys probably know what I do, but to the people that watch this and don't know, I draw a comic called Demon Bitch, and I kind of make it fun of it because it's like a doo-doo comic. Like I'm like fun of piss and shit and vomit and all this other stuff, but it has a societal and like it has social commentary. And one of it is like the stupid shit I see people do, the stupid thoughtless shit I've seen some people do. And you know, I think it's funny because like I seem to do this type of comic where I call out people and people just know what the fuck what I'm talking about, and they laugh because they all know that person. Now I've seen other ones where they try to do that, but they're kind of mocking a whole group. They kind of talk down or at people, but they don't include the people in the conversation. And apparently a lot of people seem to like that about Demon Bitch. Like I'll draw this one. Like there's this character named Egg Lady, and she's based off some women that I've known. They go like they're into the MLM, like multi-level marketing, fucking fitness shit, and they work out and they're fat as pigs. And they're like, guess what? I made 10 million friggin' steps and everything. And they so clearly haven't. They probably tied that to their husband's fucking truck and let him drive around there for a few hours or something like that to get the steps.
Put it on a paint shaker.
Yeah, like, I mean, the thing is that I know that sounds awful. And again, I have friends that are really heavy. They would be on the fat to obese spectrum, and they love it because it's like they know I'm not shaming a person because they're fat. It's like making fun of an asshole that tries to go and project a certain lifestyle, but they clearly do not embody it, you know, for example. Or Demon Bitch, she's like after a lot of girls that I've seen in Hollywood like that get strung out on coke and do stupid, needy things, and eventually they go nuts. Like they just exhibit such weird codependent and narcissistic behavior. It's not even funny. Like even one person said, maybe we should take DMT and talk to the coronavirus. I'm like, why did you even talk about that?
Well, I mean, and it's funny because Demon Bitch it's actually a fairly, like, even though like she's she's kind of uses people, and she gets around a lot and all that kind of stuff. It's still a very sex positive book. You're not saying oh, don't sleep around, don't have a good time. You're just being like, there's a way to do it, and this is not the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. It's like, I don't mind sex positive type stuff. I really don't. But I think with anything, including religion, philosophy, life coaching, whatever, you are going to have to accept there's like a very dark. I might stalk Christie a little bit. That's why I shared that to you.
Oh, okay, yeah. She sent me the video, and I'm like, I can't watch that right now.
Oh, I see. Yeah, but I mean, the thing is that to every aspect of society, sex positive or whatever, there's always going to be a dark side, because there's always going to be people that use it and try to sell a person something, and there's a difference between living a lifestyle and to be sold a bill of goods. Oh, it's a video of her singing. Oh my God, that one. Yeah, I was singing that song. No, but I mean, for example, I have friends in the BDSM community, and how they talk about it. Like, they'll be open. It's not that they aren't, like they'll say, oh yeah, like blah, 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 like, but they're not telling me, like, I just ask them, or it comes up in conversation. They say, yeah, on the BDSM, I do this and I do that and I do this, right? Okay, fine. But if it's like they're trying to recruit me, it's like, come on, I mean, it's like, unless if I want to, it's sort of, you see what I mean? It's kind of a very interesting sort of things. If like, I have friends that do all sorts of shit. Let's say I just know people that do all sorts of shit, and I think that
one of my favorite characters that you just made, I think, just over the pandemic, was Shitbird.
Oh God,
I love Shitbird because I feel like I know several Shitbirds.
Yeah, I mean, they're pretty basic material when you think about it. Loud, obnoxious, annoyingly hypersexual. And again, you can be sexual, you can be hypersexual, but I mean, like, so to a point that you're like again, selling a bill of goods. Like, I do this and I do that and I fucked all these people. Like, that's really nice. I don't know why you need to fucking tell me this shit.
Yeah, it's none of my business.
Yeah, it's like, it's one thing of talking about, like, oh yeah, I went home with this guy and I did this and I did that. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. But when you start kind of doing it in a provocative manner, like, oh, well, this person sent me this dick pic and everything, and you happen to know this person that supposedly sent this to this person, I'm like, oh, that's nice. And then they go like, it was adequate. And I'm like, I really don't want to know about that dude's dick. Come on.
Yeah,
stop.
There's a difference between having a conversation about it and advertising it. And I think with Shitbirds, it's advertising it. It's like, hey man, I saw this dick and we did that and we had this fucking thing that we did, and you're like, well, why do I need to know that? What did that have to do with whatever the fuck is going on here right now?
Yeah, it's kind of more like, like you're sitting there and then all of a sudden they start saying, you know what I did? I have to go to the gym because I have to go to the gym because you know what? If I'm going on top of a guy and I'm pumping on him and I have to throw my leg over and then I have to, I'm like, I didn't ask you to talk to me about this. Seriously. Yeah. I really didn't. People go into 12 or less things line at a food marketplace when they have more than 12 things, the worst. Ha ha.
Okay. But yeah, I love, and so I guess something, I'm so glad that we've now moved on to Demon Bitch, because now that we talked about Sepulchre and Demon Bitch, do you feel like there was, I mean, I know that you discussed the fact that you were so happy with the first one that moving on to the second was difficult, which I will tell you, I fully understand. When it came to, I worked on Belial 2, and Belial 2 took me a long time because I was really proud of Belial 1. And then when 2 was done, I was like, oh damn, I really feel like I did better on 2. And that made 3 seem even all the more daunting.
Yeah, because you don't want to write the shitty one in the middle. No.
And now 3's done, and we're moving on to art and stuff, and I'm looking at 4, and I'm like, ooh, that's the end. You can't fuck up the end. So now I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I've written, like, I don't know how long Sepulchre will go. I'm not thinking of going at making huge, but they're graphic novels, so I'm thinking like, but it's a good story. I mean, I think I have that idea what the end will be, but but how to get there is kind of interesting. Maybe it'll be 3 more books before I write that. But
That's a
yeah,
chunk.
it's
So
Demon
do
Bitch
you
will never die like herpes. But anyway, what?
right? Do you feel like you have to get into a specific headspace when you move from one to the other, or do you feel like you can jump without much of an issue?
Oh man, it's how I feel that day. Mike James Bankston. I seen this thing on the show Chuck and I did, and the quote was something like, "So you need to tell people you went to the gym to make it count." Yeah, pretty much. But for me, I'm kind of like going, what was it? Christie helped me with my book. Now it's like, what do I do for the next book? That's pretty much it. With Demon Bitch, I think it's like I just think of a joke, and I just do a one shot, and then I'm done. And what's useful is since I put it out as a webtoon, it's one thing after another, and it's like bam, right? So that's what I do. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of like, I don't know. It's just like weird. With Demon Bitch, it's like I'll get an idea and I'll do it, right? You might not think that's any different than Sepulchre, but Sepulchre, like literally the day that I finished this book, writing it, I was just like, I gotta just write it. I gotta write it. I gotta write it. And I just kept writing this whole stream of consciousness thing until almost the very end. Like there were a few scenes, I think. And then I pulled back, wrote the ending to the book, and then I joined it in the middle like that.
I think that's really cool. I think that's really neat. And yeah, I can totally understand that as a writer moving back and forth, like from Belial to Welcome to the Void to any of the other things that I do. It is like, it's a different thing, and it's a different way of writing. So you're thinking of them in different ways. And I like that, like every once in a while I'll come up with a good Belial joke and I'll just speak into my phone, or I'll write myself down a little note or something, and it's there. And that's kind of like my little Demon Bitch thing where I'm like, cool, I'm just gonna do this thing right now, and it's there, and I'm good, and I can come back to it. But whereas the other stories with a little bit more heart and whatnot, you have to have that stuff planned, those arcs and those moments. You really have to be kind of in that moment a little more.
Well, I think also it's the big lie in writing is that you have to write everything linearly, but sometimes you don't have to. Like, you can write up to a point and then write the end part. Okay, I want the ending to be like this, and then you kind of write and connect the two together. Like, how does this evolve? And it actually comes together great.
Yeah. We do that all the time with when we're outlining the chapters for our book Essence House, for Chronicles of the Essence Guard. We will go to the end and go, okay, we know what the end is going to look like, and then for a season, because we're doing like 10 episodes in a season, so we're trying to outline all the book or all the chapters. And so Eric and I did the first 2 or so chapters, and then we started to falter a bit on chapter 3, so we went and we did chapters 10 and 9 and 8 and so you're kind of going back and forth. So I totally get what you mean there, where you're having to jump back and forth just to fill it all up, that connective tissue in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird because it's like with this book, I wrote it pretty linearly, but when it came to I think the last 2 or 3 acts, I wrote the last act, and then I kind of merged the 2 together. But there were some of them, like, I'm kind of hypercritical about my writing a little bit. And again, that's because I'm still kind of learning. I mean, I've written stuff before, like articles. I've written short stories. It's not that I'm terrible at writing, but it's like for comic books, and it was a new thing for me. I really wasn't sure how to go about it, if it made sense. And even though I'm drawing my own material, I still don't, like, it depends on, like, the rapport I have with a person. Like with Lawrence Hubbard, I wrote some stories for him and Real Deal, but he got it because he's been drawing this characters a lot, and we talk a lot. We're like best friends. And so, like, when I wrote it, like, sometimes I'll write little short stories and say, here, take a look at that. And maybe if I feel like certain dialogue should be in there, I'll put it there. But I've heard a lot of actually comic book writers do that too. Like the artist will insert in the dialogue, but then, you write out a lot of other shit too. Like you write out all this other crap and everything. So it's like, any writers you look to for inspiration or have inspired you? Hi, Black Katie, where are you? Okay. Oh, she's over there, my little
There
boy.
she is. Yeah, on the outside.
Yeah, she'll do this cute thing while she'll paw at me. But going back, yeah, the big lie is that they tell you to write linearly, and you really can't. Like if you can write a section that comes to mind, and then you'll bridge them. But is there any writers that I can look for inspiration? I like Irving Stone. He does a lot of biographical things like Agony and the Ecstasy. That's by Michelangelo. Those are and Lust for Life. Those are the two most popular ones. Lust for Life is about Vincent van Gogh. So there's that. There's a lot of other things too. So I like those. Margaret George is pretty good. She did Memoirs of Cleopatra, and she did about the wives of Henry VIII. And she does a lot of really good research on that. I'm trying to think, like those are the two authors I really look at. Sometimes I've looked at really fucked up like philosophy. I don't even know if it's philosophy, but Jorge Bataille, he did Story of the Eye. And how I learned about that fucking book was with Bjork, like she was talking about it. And it just sounded so weird because it was about eggs and shit. And it's not for the faint-hearted. I actually got the book. It's just a fuck. Like, you know how you were looking at it, it's like, this is fucked up. This is fuck. That is beyond like what you ever read, man. It's crazy. So Jorge Bataille I can read, but I would only recommend reading a little bit. I like Ananias Nin, like Henry and June. That's pretty good too. Yeah. Sometimes I'll read the same books over and over. I know that's probably like sounds really Philistine-like of me, but other than that, I read law books or political books sometimes. Yeah. I sometimes read like medical stuff. So.
Yeah. You and I have talked a lot, and you really do kind of run the gamut of what you enjoy reading and whatnot. But what about art? Because I think you tend to see yourself more as an artist than a writer, which I wouldn't necessarily agree. I think you do excellent at both. But what artists have kind of inspire you?
I would say Otomo. He did Akira, and then there was Giger. Giger's good. I've always liked Dali. Picasso's pretty good too. I'm trying to think. Adam Warren. He did Dirty Pair. He did the localized version. He did Empowered. I didn't really get into that one, but he did a lot of like covers for Gen 13. Those things, right? So those Image comics, he did a couple of covers for them, but I liked Adam Warren. I liked, I think he's the one that did Dominion and Appleseed. It's like not Takachiko. Takachiko is the guy that did the original Dirty Pair, but Masumone Shiro, I think that's his name. He did that. So I had a lot of anime background as well. I like Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind by Ghibli, and My Neighbor Totoro, but Totoro came later. It was more of Studio Ghibli's Nausicaa, Valley of the Wind. Let me see here with other artists. There's a lot of artists that I've read and watched and everything. I mean, I liked watching the old 30s cartoons, the old school, like the Ren and Stimpy. I know people are like, oh, Ren and Stimpy, that guy, fuck that guy. I mean, I understand. But maybe it was Bakshi that did it. He redid Mighty Mouse and Beanie and Cecil. Like, they're not Bakshi's creations. Well, they weren't that guy's creations, but they were drawn by him later on in the 80s. Like they did the new Mighty Mouse, and they did Beanie and Cecil, which were really fucking demented. Yeah. I'm trying to think also, there's like, Garfield I got into, For Better, For Worse with Johnston. I actually had an opportunity to meet her because she's in CAPS. That's an organization I'm in. And then there's, there's like a lot. I met the Hernandez brothers that did Love and Rockets and Palomar. That's good too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, I met Johnny Ryan, one of my favorites. And then Simon Hanselman, he did Meg and Mog. Yeah, and then Beavis and Butthead, I would say, because it's just this weird existential stupidity, but it was great. It was like a big existential desert, like you're in the middle of the desert, you're getting high on peyote, which I've never done, but I would imagine that's what it would be like. And I actually liked Daria back in the day. Daria was good.
Oh, totally.
Bakshi did 80s Mighty Mouse. John Kay did 80s Beanie and Cecil. Okay. Yeah, the styles were really similar, but Bakshi, I remember he did Mighty Mouse, and that was fucking demented as hell. Like, I would watch that, and I was like, what the fuck is this? And on the other hand, I always read Snoopy and often read Dilbert. I read those too. Yeah, I mean, I read the staples. you know, I think a lot of the syndicated cartoons, they kind of like put you on a level of ease, and it's kind of like watching Scooby-Doo. It's kind of boring, but you watch it anyway because you're just kind of calms you down.
Yeah, I would feel though that I feel like there was a couple though that kind of broke the edges. I would say things like Far Side or even Calvin and Hobbes, where like Calvin and Hobbes was actually way smarter than like the average person. They're like, oh, it's so cute. And you're like, nah, man, it's like he's talking about some really fucking deep shit here, and you're
Yeah,
just
Calvin
not
and Hobbes.
seeing all the levels.
Yeah, Calvin and Hobbes is good. That's what I'm saying. Is that Calvin and Hobbes is at most excellent with that, and John K. worked with Boschke and Mighty Mouse, so that makes sense. Yeah, I know John K. has kind of been banned from the industry, and I understand why. That was pretty fucked what he did, but it was kind of weird because he had this really demented ass fucking love design of Aeon Flux back in the day, weird and sexy. Yeah, he also did Alexander. I think Peter Chung he did Alexander. It's called Rain, and it's just weird because it had like this star on there and it's Alexander, and he just has this long beautiful hair and shit. But it was actually a really well done fucking anime. I guess it's technically an anime, but I don't know. It's American, so it was an animation. So it was just this whole thing. Like, yeah, it was actually really good. So if you watch Rain, that's actually that's like a very underrated fucking cartoon series as well. It's like my daughters love and know me and got me a Snoopy Day calendar every morning, little boost for the day. Yeah, like Snoopy, it's like this whole thing about like this sort of, it's sort of like a piece of American apple pie, like this domicile. Like you just look at it and you're just like, oh, that's something I can count on.
Yeah.
It's like Garfield too. Although now that the internet has released sexy Garfield, I fucking hate the internet sometimes. But there's another one where they did like The Thing kind of, but it's like a Japanese like horror game, but with Garfield, it's like, I can smell your fear, John, like that. You gotta look it up. Some animator did that. It was fucking amazing. It was great.
I have a client who has a book about a vampiric cat, and I really want her to do. I was talking to her and I was like, you have to do a fucking Garfield homage cover, and she's like, I worry about homage covers that people are gonna sue me, and I'm like, nah, man, everybody loves a good homage. Just make sure that they know, that you're like, yeah, I'm giving respect to it, while also having fun with it and using it. And so but yeah, man, I love a good homage, and I love seeing all these different kind of nods to these different cartoonists and whatnot. Like D Fish. I love seeing, do you know her?
D Fish? She sounds familiar. What does she do?
She's, oh my gosh. I think it's called Life of D. She actually has one about herself. But yeah, she's done a bunch of different cartoons and whatnot. And she's an excellent cartoonist, but a lot of it is about her transition and all that kind of stuff. But I've seen her also
male to female, woman.
Yes.
To, oh, okay.
Male to female, yeah. And so what's really cool is you get to kind of see that, but also she tends to play with a lot of different styles. Yeah, Finding D. That's right. Thank you. Good call, Eric.
Finding D. Okay, I think I've heard of that book.
It's really great. I got my kids onto it because they're transitioning as well. So
2 of them, right?
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure.
I thought that was really helpful and whatnot, but it's a really funny comic, and yeah, I love when she will take on other artists' styles and play with them, and I just think it's brilliant. It's really cool, especially when you do it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, as I said, it's kind of interesting because people try to go and make human complex issues too complex when really they're simplistic in some ways, but then they kind of go too simplistic when they should actually elaborate on it a bit more. It's kind of interesting to me. And, again, it's like all across the genre. I'm not picking out one genre over another. I'm just saying, like, it's just interesting to me what goes with good and bad writing is like people think, oh, it's detail. It's like, well, attention to detail, but if it's way too detailed, fuck that shit,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, sorry.
It's okay. You all right?
Yeah, stuck. We were talking about it earlier. Stuck sneeze, and then like when you feel like you have to burp, and you're like, "Oh, please, God, be a burp. Please be a burp." Like
Oh,
shit
and not
like
a burp. And not a burp.
that. Yeah. If it's not a burp, then fuck. What is it?
Yeah, right.
Yeah. See, you did. Yeah, exactly. There's nothing like a good homage cover. It's just a lot of fun. So as we start to wind down, because sorry guys, just the hour it takes it out of you. You know what I mean? But we are. I'm still. I'm here today, so we're gonna keep pushing through as long as we don't get worse. So as we do start to finish this up, why don't you tell people what you've got coming on? Kind of get people excited about the things you've got coming up, because I know you have a Kickstarter happening soon.
Yeah, I do in March. And I gave you the link for that. You guys can go follow it so that when it goes live, you can jump on that. And feel free to share that link. It's called You All Suck. And I always like titling them all these like crazy ass names. I think it's called You All Suck and the Hour of Power. Yeah, just like that, because I was thinking like the Tower of Power from Bobby Brown.
Right.
Yeah, that one. If you guys haven't heard that Frank Zappa song, that's an amazing song. But you have this one of what was it? So I've been doing the Kickstarter I'm working on. Hopefully we will get a first level of the game to beta test for a certain amount of the reward, like $5 or something. I don't know. I'm kind of debating on that. I'm waiting until we do more work, but that's going to be part of the Kickstarter. We've got the graphic novel and some pins going to be marketed, and maybe like we're going to go and expand into the hard thing, the hard cover, hard thing, huh? And then I've got right now I'm actually in talks with starting a Asian American comic day, and we're not sure when, but it'll be probably next month or the beginning of March, and that'll be held at the Comic Bug locally. And knowing my crazy ass, I'll probably like be titling something stupid like Asian Invasion Yellow Peril or some shit, because I'm an evil little bastard that way. Then I've got so with Sepulchre 2, I'm going to do a Kickstarter for it probably later in the year, and after it kind of dies down. And what I'm still going to be probably going to all these cons, but one of the things that I'm going to be doing is that I'm going to actually do a tarot deck that is called Murder Ballads. And it's just like a dark tarot deck. I mean, it's not like super dark where everything sucks. It's just a kind of a dark tarot deck, and then you just create it, and it's going to be sold as sort of a package to Sepulchre. So I think that's kind of going to be cool to do.
That is really cool. Yeah. See, I love that you play with so many different things. Like, I mean, I know that one of your Kickstarters, I believe, for Demon Bitch, like I think you've done cards, you've done pins, like you've done a bunch of different stuff. Like you're just always willing to have some fun with the brands and see what works. I really like that about you.
Oh, thank you so much. It says Christie is also a decent editor. She kept my book from ending up a piece of crap.
That's sweet.
Thank you, Derek. I appreciate it. But yeah, it's just, I mean, it's kind of like you just kind of have to have a certain standard of how you do things. And I know sometimes people say, well, you do Demon Bitch, it's a fucked up, stupid comic. Like, I don't understand why you have standards. And it's like, well, it's, it's like this. It's like, it's not like it's a shitty comic. I mean, I say it's a shitty comic, but it's like, it's meant to be fucked up and shitty. Like, that's how you brand it. Because when people read it, they're like, oh yeah, it's about shitty people. And it's about shitty things. This is funny.
But you're not just saying anything. There's still like thought that goes into it, and heart and all that kind of stuff. Like you're still saying something, and you're still being thoughtful when you create it. So it's not that it's shitty as in quality wise. It's about shitty people.
Yeah, please let people know you also have your lunchtime. Oh yes, I do. I just restarted lunch hour, so that'll be 12:30 to 1:30. Monday through Friday for the most part. There are some days I take off, but you guys are welcome to go on there. You can comment on Facebook Live or YouTube. I say sometimes YouTube, but I also have QR codes where you can go and QR code to my links and store as well.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay. Well, I mean, this has been absolutely amazing. I so appreciate you coming out. I really
Thanks.
do. I love every chance I get to hang out with you. You became kind of my pandemic buddy for a while there. You and I were when it was like really at the shitty spot. You and I were chatting a lot and talking, and especially because there was so much kind of like theorizing as far as like how do you deal with it? What do you think about it? And so it was really nice to kind of have you had all this information, and I loved when you would call and whatnot. It was always great talking to you. So
Oh, I
do.
did. I enjoyed those times too.
Yeah, I appreciate every chance I get to hang out with you, and we're hoping to be able to get to a Comic-Con together sometime soon. I already made the travel out to Seattle, so California is not a no. And I've got my Belial partner out there too, so I
Yeah.
wanna get out there sometime. So
Yeah, totally. Oh, and Trish says if you have Patreon, yes, I do have a Patreon. If you want to put up my link tree, my Patreon is on that. And she helped me out of the goodness of her heart and for 50. Well, it's not always for free. Sorry, I got to eat. So yeah, if you guys want to go on my Patreon, you get art dumps every month.
Yeah.
And you get previews to the actual Demon Bitch cartoons. Also, if you want to go commission me for some work on my link tree, is my link tree on there? I don't know if
I
you guys
have
put
it.
yeah, my link tree's on there. It should have everything along with the YouTube that you can follow it. Worth every cent. There you go.
Yeah.
And then yeah, you can go on my link tree and all that.
See, and Derek, I love your name. If you had one more T, you would be a Canadian beer. So good for you, man.
Oh, there you go.
Labatt.
And it's like there's a con in Kansas City, just saying not a bad thing. It's funny. I'm actually going to a con sometime. I think it's I'm trying to remember. I'm going to go out to Oregon, and apparently I'm going out to Boise, Idaho. I am not picky. So if you guys invite me out there, I will be there. So just pay the hotel and fare and the table. And, yeah, I'm there. I'm there. I'm getting there. Like I'm like a guest at several cons already. So I'm not really, it's really cool. So very happy about that. So yeah, just go ahead and take a look. And actually, do you want to throw up the link tree on there? I don't know.
Yeah, let me track it down real quick. I can get it up there.
Okay, because I can throw it in the private chat too.
La 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 la.
There we go. Put it in the private chat.
Let me see if I can copy. And now, okay, so here's what I can do. I can put it as a banner.
Mm-hmm.
And we can show it off like that. Paste. And what the fuck? Just go. And there it is. Boom.
So guys, go on my link tree. It's on there. That's my Patreon. That's the webtoon. That's the apparel store. That's the book and print store. I've had to kind of split them off more or less. And then the Demon Bitch Kickstarter, you can link to that. And then you'll have my social media links on the bottom. It's not all of them, but the Patreon link is down there too.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being out here tonight. I had a great time. You always make me smile. So thank you so much for coming out. You were the perfect guest for tonight. You really were.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm sorry that you're under the weather. That sucks.
You know what? It happens. I think it's one of those things. It's not what happens to us. It's how we deal with it. So holy fuck,
Right.
What the hell is this? I don't know what that is. You covered us up with so much stuff, but we'll check that link. And if it's porn, it better be free porn, buddy.
Yeah, and it said, contact my ass, laugh out loud, nice. And I said, yeah, contact my ass.
All right. Thank you so much, guys. Take
Thank
care
you.
of yourselves. We stay safe. Try not to get sick, but if you do, just take care of yourselves. Peace, love, and comics. And as always, my name is Chuck, and I give a fuck. Take care, guys.